Good afternoon and welcome to the Full Scottish on Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Nena Bardwaj. Our guest this week is Edinburgh councillor Ashley Grassick, who resigned from the Tory party at the beginning of July and has announced this week that she would now vote yes to Scottish independence. Welcome, Ashley.
Hello.
So tell us first of all, what made you make this decision? Why did you choose to resign from the Tory party?
Well, it was a bit of a process. At the beginning, when we had during the campaign, one of the first things that we had was to have a small debate at Inclusion Scotland, and the audience were disabled people, and obviously I was standing at the Conservative Party, and I was generally surprised by the response from the disabled audience, hearing the stories and hearing the impact that the policies had on their lives, and it really bothered me, and it made me even more determined to do something about it within the party. So I kind of silently vowed to myself that that if I got elected, which I did, but if I got elected, I was going to do something about it. And I did get elected, and obviously I'm just a councillor, but I had put motions at full council to have subtitles for the webcast, because we webcast some of our meetings, committee meetings and the monthly full council. So that makes it more accessible for deaf people. We have made the standing orders, which is basically the council rules, to make it more accessible for disabled people. What other things have we done? Yeah, it was just different things to try to improve the lives of disabled people. And I've also just recently had a motion in on disability employment, because ours is very low. We've only got 5%, and we need to have it more. So we're now working on that to make it more equal. While I was doing that as a councillor, I had also been involved with Inclusion Scotland and with my party to work towards having a possible Scottish Conservative disability group, so that we could stop these things that we need to deal with. Other things I'm trying to think. I found it quite difficult to when the Access to Elected Office Fund, for example, that'd be the best place for me to start. I was really concerned when I found out that it had been discontinued, but it hadn't closed. So when there was a snap election, a month after we got elected as councillors, they started having candidates for the MP election, and there was disabled candidates that I knew from via Inclusion Scotland and via the social media of people who wanted to stand in England and Wales, but they couldn't because the UK government refused to release the Access to Elected Office Fund, and that really bothered me. But there was nothing that I could do at that time. So after the election, I tried to work with my party to say, look, we need to have that Access to Elected Office Fund back open again. And as you saw in my statement, I wrote an open letter, and I'm getting a letter back telling me that they've wound it up and the responsibility now has to be on the political parties. And the reality is, I've seen what happened at the snap election. There was political parties that couldn't afford to pay for the support needed. During my campaign, which is for the council, I obviously benefited from the Access to Elected Office Fund, but from the Scottish Government because it was devolved. And the fund enabled me to get a PA who dealt with like phone campaigning, because I can't use the phone because I had to let me. They also dealt with like the intercom for flat. Half of my ward is flat. And because the intercom is a bit like a telephone, and first impression counts, because otherwise they just think we're just being annoying, you know. So these signs made a massive difference to my campaign. I mean, it really broke down the barriers, and it was such a relief for me. And it was such a, you know, it was like, wow, this is great, this is what we should be doing. And for that to be denied to MP candidate really annoyed me, and it's just like, you know, and I was embarrassed that it was my party that was doing it. And like, but we, you know, people talk about, oh, we need to fight within, you know, and this is what I was trying to do. But I was just getting nowhere with it, and I just got really frustrated and really like, this isn't going anywhere. And that is just like one example, and it really bothers me. But it's not just the Assist Elected Office Fund, it's also the disability benefits, all the different ones, I can't remember them all, but just hearing the stories really bothers me, because I'm on the ground, I'm not looking at statistics, I'm not listening to experts, I'm listening to what's happening, people's experiences, people's stories, and I'm thinking, this isn't working, and I felt that that I was fighting with a stick, because I can't change these policies, but it's my party's policies that's affecting them. Does that make sense? And then I've also had like local residents who were really impacted, like they've been sanctioned for silly reasons, you know, like I'm talking about, like, you know, universal credit and different things like that, and like people being sanctioned, people having to go to food bank. And like, I've got one of the local primary schools that I visited, because I made a point of visiting them, the teachers are providing breakfast for some of the kids in schools. The teachers are the ones going about getting clothes for the kids that need them, and shoes. And I'm like, you know, when I was at school, this never happened. And it really, really bothered me. And it was like food bank. And so when you see these things and you hear these things, it's like, what's going on? This is not matching up with what the statistics are saying with the UK government. And it's just things like that. And it was just, it bothers my conscience. Right. I mean, I don't have any fancy words, I'm just speaking from experience, and it really it bothers me, and it was like, I can't fight this within the party, and that's the conclusion that I came to. And I knew I had to resign, because I knew I have to start doing the right thing and standing up for them properly, and I can't do it with the policy that I have.
And why do you think independence is the right way to go about that?
Because I think, obviously, like this, like a lot of the things that was there, because as like I said in my statement, like I get a bit of experience being a councillor and working into government. You kind of get a feel like, you know, like we're governing, and it's like, why can't we govern on the reserve matters? I mean, surely Scotland's capable of doing that. We, the people in Scotland, can do that. And it just really changed my perspective. Like, a lot of my perspective has changed since I became a councillor. This was the last thing that I was expecting. It really was. I mean, you really got a new perspective on governance and self-governance, and you got a new perspective on like especially when you do casework and when you're like out and about in the community and you're on the ground and you're seeing with your own eyes and hearing something with my ears, and like, I can't ignore these things. And like, and part of my campaign was that, you know, they have a community that works for everyone, and it's like my hands are tied. So, and And I think with independent, we make the choices, like we can decide how we want immigration to be, like we're more welcoming and giving people who are, like, you know, like the Edinburgh Festival, the book festival, we were supposed to have some authors come over, but the UK denied them the visa. Do you think the Scottish Government would do that? I leave that to you to think, you know, and it's things like that, and like, I know that we would be more welcoming, and like, and I saw recently on Twitter how we've had a Labour MSP wanted to visit, is it Lanarkshire somewhere, they wanted to visit an immigration plane, and she got denied entry by an MP in Westminster who's not anywhere in Scotland, and it's like, no, come on, so we're not allowed basic access now, is that what you're saying? Oh, and then the other thing you've got to ask is, like, what are you trying to hide? Do you know what I mean? And like, it's just, I think we've got different visions of how we want to go forward. Like, I know, like, I'm really concerned about Brexit. I mean, what a mess. And I can't pretend, oh, right, oh, well, because we're in the Conservative Party, we've got to pretend everything's fine. I'm sorry, but it's not fine. Look with your eyes, hear with your ears, and wake up, you know, accept, we've got to accept the reality here, but we're in a mess, we've got to deal with that, you know. I mean, it's like, you know, like a basic plaster, you know, if you've got a wound, you need to scrape it out and then see, like, you can't just put a plaster on top of it and then go, oh, I'm sure. And it's just the whole thing, it's a bit surreal. And I'm fed up having to answer for, like, Boris and Kit. I mean, it's ridiculous. But we're in the same party, and it reflects badly on us. And I'm fed up of having to defend, like, you know, because I know a lot of Conservatives in the party, like, you know, in the Scottish Conservative Party are not like that. Like, you know, we're not like Boris, we're not like Jacob Rees-Mogg. But the reality is we're in the same party, and that's the problem. And I believe, but this is just my opinion, this is not the Scottish Conservative Party opinion, this is just mine, I'm just being honest. But I think, I genuinely believe that the Scottish Conservatives do want to modernise, but they want to keep the Conservative values, but they do want to be progressive, they do want to be more compassionate, more like forward, and like, you know, I do believe that, but it feels like 3 steps forward and 2 steps back because of what's going on in Westminster. And like, you've got that bloke, oh, I forget his name, but him that voting for the upskirting. I mean, you know, the upskirting taking pictures, like, who's voting on a point of principle, and you're just like, you know, that all sets us back. But I think the Conservative Party, for them to be truly modern and to be the actual Scottish Conservative Party, they need independence, so that they don't need to keep answering for their ridiculous behaviour. Because so far, all they can do at the moment, and I'm being the devil advocate here because I don't want to be like, you know, I have to say in their defence, I have seen some of the Scottish Conservative MSPs stand up and like on Twitter and say, like, you know, Boris, enough is enough, and you know, and being like, you know, pointing out he's wrong, but that's all they can do because they're not MPs. There's nothing they can do. That is what, you know, it's hampering what the vision of the Scottish Conservative Party. And I think if we had independent, and I think it's the same story with Labour, with anti-Semitism, they're having to answer for all this. And where if we have independent, we can be the party we really want to be, because I think we're more sane up here. Maybe I'm being biased because I'm Scottish, but that's how I see it.
Right, so now that you have resigned from the Tories, do you think you align yourself with the SNP?
No, I am an independent councillor. Okay. I've not joined a party.
Okay.
I've resigned from the Scottish Conservative,
okay.
Which was a month ago, and even the council website confirms that I'm still an independent councillor. So, and I'm just, because this is a massive adjustment for me, I'm having to change a lot of the new thinking, because it was I don't know how to explain it, but it was quite a, like, you know, I've seen the light. I don't know how else to explain it. It just, everything clicked, and it was just like one day, and it clicked. I mean, it was a few months ago. I was wearing my Union Jack gaff and holding a flag, and I'm like, I never saw them coming. And this is what I mean. But it's that, I don't know if the like revelation or something. It's just that click, and it was like, yeah, we need independence. This is not working, and then everything becomes more clear as time goes on, and it was like that. That's how it was for me. That's all I can say. I mean, and it was like. We need to make our own choices. We need to decide how we want immigration to work. And I know people go, but we need the union to that, like thing that covers the whole of the UK, like the railway. I'm like, but we've got a railway line that goes through the whole of Europe, but they're not all one country. You know, they're different countries, but they somehow, I don't know how they do it, I'm not a railway expert, but they make it work. And I'm sure we can do the same on a wee island and on a big continent, do you know what I mean? So, does that make sense?
Yeah,
So, and like, in things like that, I really do think we can make this work. I think it will take time. I don't think it'll happen overnight. I think there'll be challenges, but I do think we can come up with practical solutions. It'll take time to build a country. It'll take time to build some kind of central bank. I mean, the bankers, I don't know what to do with that. I'm not, you know, thinking, but like all the stuff like the currency thing. Like, I would love to see like debate take place where we invite the new people like Kevin Haig and Fraser White and invite them to say, look, we respect your views, but we're wondering if we would work with her on like, what, in your opinion, what would you think would be the practical solution if we have an independent Scotland? And try and work together, because when, and I do believe we will one day, I don't know, it's not an if, it's a when we become independent, we're going to have Conservatives in the party. We're going to have different people, and we're going to have no voters that are not going to be happy, and we need to work with them. We need to make them feel included. We need to, because it's a very hard adjustment, because a lot of people like me, and I no longer do it, but there's some that still do, they'll see the whole of the UK as their homeland. And we've got to look at it like countries that no longer exist, is it Yugoslavia? Places like that. And imagine how hard it must have been for them. They no longer have the UK. I mean, but the UK is not the same anymore because of devolution. It changed things, and people that realise that actually we can make decisions for ourselves, you know, and govern ourselves. And more people are realising this. But there's a lot of people that also see the UK as a homeland, and we have to respect that and work with that, and not, because home is about security, isn't it? It's about feeling home and not with my, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
so you're one of the first profoundly deaf councillors in Edinburgh. So how do you think independence and having more of our own power would help in disability rights, for example?
Obviously, I think obviously I think we would have more equality in an independent Scotland than because if I look at the independent vision, which is beyond party, I'm talking about like the Yes movement, which is cross-party, including the, you know, those that are not in any party. And then when you look at the Brexit vision, it's becoming, well, in my opinion, it just seems to be becoming more and more clear that it's only the rich that's going to benefit. And okay, well, I don't think that's good enough. I'm sorry, but no, I want to see where everyone can benefit, and that's where, because of course I want to see the disabled people having more disability rights, and I definitely think we'll be able to get the support for MP candidates, and like just being more inclusive, but also like for women and for like, you know, people from like the Europeans to feel welcomed, and as well as other people, immigration. We want them to feel welcome. We don't want them feeling like, a bit of a just kind of, and I think,
And in terms of representation of the disabled, do you think that some people are being held back from maybe getting involved in politics as well? Some people who might have those ambitions because they don't see it reflected?
I think more disabled people are getting more ambitious about getting involved in politics, and I think a lot of it, I have to say, is thanks to Inclusion Scotland, because I think they're amazing. Sorry, I keep repeating them, but it's just because I think they're absolutely amazing, and the staff are fabulous. And like, you see, we can only aim for what we can see, right? We're not going to attempt something if it's never occurred to us that it could be a possibility. We have to show, is this something that you would like to consider? I mean, I never considered becoming a councillor until I saw the politicians, cross-party, MSP, promoting this as an elected office fund. And I thought, what's this? And I opened it, and then it showed, this is support for this. I thought, that would enable me to campaign, because I thought I couldn't be a councillor because my deafness held me back, at the time. But because of this asset elected office fund, I thought that enables me to have an equal level playing field, and it would enable me to do my role in the campaign and stuff. So, and I think we would be in control of the kind of disability rights we want to have, and first we want to be more inclusive and being part of society.
Sure. And how do you think we do that? How do we break down these barriers that currently exist and sort of perpetuate
Well, I
diversity?
think Scotland is way ahead, I'm being honest. I think Scotland's way ahead. I mean, we've got this BSL national plan, which is like, to make it more accessible for BSL users. I've also been working on that, keeping a close eye on it in my council. And there's like a few months ago, I think they've recently changed their mind, but a few months ago, someone put in, not a motion, I can't remember what it's called, something that they put in a bill to have BSL as a GSC, and but the government didn't want it, and it's like, because we don't want to make any changes at the moment, because we've had enough changes and we need to have things to be a bit stable, and it's like that, and that embarrassed me, and that made me really disappointed in my party, and I really felt for the deaf people, like, in the rest of the UK, because and it makes me feel so lucky up here, because I thought we didn't get this. And that when you look at, and like recently I was at a More United event in London to give a speech on my experience in campaigning and being elected as a disabled candidate, because the More United is a cross-party thing, and one of their campaigns is to reopen the anti-selected office fund in the UK. And like, so I also got to hear the impact from the first hand from the Labour candidate down in London that wanted to stand and they couldn't. And it was just like, so you're putting a cap on the ambition for what? I mean, what is it about? I just don't understand it, but that's just where I am with it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now we have a short clip as well to see from the demonstration in front of the BBC at Pacific Quay yesterday.
And when I lived and worked around the world, the BBC's name carried great weight, and it wasn't until I came back 3 years ago that I started putting the qualification beside it. When people used to say, what did you do? I'm a housewife now, I'm an angry housewife from Kirriemuir now. But people used to say, well, what did you do? And I said, I used to work for the BBC. And now I say, I used to work for the BBC in the days when it was good. because the thing which breaks my heart about the institution that we're standing in front of today is that it really used to stand for quality journalism and impartiality and balance. But the thing is that for many of the folk working inside the specific Quay today, they still believe in those things. They still want to do a good job, but the problem is that they know that their bosses aren't looking for that. In the good old days, back in the 1980s and 90s, I used to work with two guys who were very close relatives of the then Minister for Culture, a Tory minister. And to this day, 20, 30 years later, I still could not tell you what their personal political viewpoints were when they were carrying out interviews or making programmes or making editorial decisions, because they truly believed that impartiality and ethics and fair standards of journalism mattered to everybody across the board, because you can't have democracy, you cannot have a healthy functioning democracy unless you have equal access to the truth and to facts, so that the population can make their mind up. They can make their mind up about the little things, and they can make their mind up about the big things. Now, many years ago, I used to be a wee peace camper. I didn't go to university. I went to Greenham Common and to Fast Lane, and I lived in the mud outside the gates for a while. And that was where I became interested in journalism. That was where I became convinced that having access to the facts, to the truth, was important. Because I could see, I'd be doing a demonstration, or I'd be talking to soldiers or squaddies, and I knew what the truth was. I knew what was before me, and I could see the way in which it was being reported, and I could see the way that some papers reported it differed from the way that others did, and that got me really interested. And I got interested in propaganda and what propagandist tools are, because I was interested in the USSR, and I was interested in repression and repressive regimes and how they function. And what alarms me now is to see that we are seeing some of those traits which repressive regimes use in controlling the media slipping in to be normalised in what we see today. So, for example, the other day the BBC had a headline saying protesters storm bookshop. But the story was you had a load of right-wing thugs going into a left-wing bookshop that was selling copies of George Orwell's 1984 and attacking staff and disrupting, trying to destroy the books. Now, history has seen that before. That's not a protest. That's far-right thugs trying to stop freedom of speech. And I believe it happened several decades ago in Germany, and it didn't end well. And it's things like that that when the BBC gives a moral equivalence to all forms of freedom of speech, that is an issue. Now, I believe in freedom of speech, of course I do, but freedom of speech comes with responsibility. So when you have the former foreign minister of the whole United Kingdom referring to women, reducing a small group of women to the status of a letterbox, when we see these forms of dehumanization being somehow normalised in different newspapers, or people sort of talking about, well, it's just Boris being Boris. No, it's not. It's somebody with a personal ambition trying to manipulate a small section of our community to then manipulate another section of the community to view them as somehow less human and less valid. And for that to be given any kind of moral equivalence through any broadcaster or any publication, that is when we should get concerned. And I am concerned now. There was a chap called Patrick Howes. He used to be a foreign correspondent in Iraq, and he wrote a really good set of tweets the other day. Go and find them if you can. And he was talking about the moral. In the old days, if we did a programme, if I did a discussion programme, I would get the truth and the facts out there in front of people, and I would get one set of honest people with one perspective around those truth and the facts, because the truth and the facts are the truth, and they are the facts. So you get one set of perspectives from one side and another perspective from another side, and you get people discussing around the table, and from that conversation the wider population can decide what they want to think about that issue. That is democracy. That is people being educated, informed, and hopefully entertained. What you get now is one set of people who are trying to tell the truth, and another set of people who are just plain lying, and you've got the people who are telling the truth sort of arguing about, well, what the truth is, and you've got a liar just rambling on and not being challenged. Now, in the past, as a journalist, I took it, and my colleagues did too, and to be honest, many of the people that I see being slagged off on a daily basis on Twitter, and sometimes quite fairly, I have to say, but some of those people helped train me. I know what their standards were. I know what they know. I know the level of integrity and dedication that they had. And sometimes I think that we're looking at people who are kind of like, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome that's going on. But these people have got mortgages and they've got kids to feed. And a lot of the time, I suspect what we are seeing is not what they believe, but them trying to keep a hold on a job because they know that their next assessment means they won't get a promotion, or they maybe won't get their contract renewed if they step out of line. That's my personal opinion on what's happening. But when I watch, for example, the Scottish Parliament, and I'm watching it with my journalist head on, and I'm thinking, that's the edit, that's the clip that we'll see on the BBC News tonight, that's the clip that STV will run with, that's the discussion that will be on the programmes tonight, or that's what should be on Scotland Tonight later on, or that's what will make the headlines. And then I see the clips coming out, and it's twisted, it's been cropped so heavily and edited so tightly that the full meaning, the full nuance is not there, and we are not able to make full and fair decisions about what the policies are. Now, I truly believe that the SNP, any party which is in power, should be fully under scrutiny and should be challenged at every turn. And as a journalist, I took great delight in being like a terrier with the facts. And if one person told me one thing, I would give them a hard time, and I would pull up their past track record. And then the next person who'd be sitting sniggering at the hard time that person had, I'd turn to them and I'd give them an equally hard time. And that's the point. Journalists are supposed to be truth seekers. We're supposed to find out what it is people really truly believe, get their words on record, get their policies on record, and then hold them to account fairly and equally and without partiality. And the truth should be out there. So what do we do? What can we do given the current situation? I fully believe that it's not necessarily just some Kafkaesque, Orwellian project to slide this country into a despotic fascist regime, although I have to say I am deeply concerned by what I see. When you hear politicians calling their colleagues traitors, when you see treason being put in huge capital letters across front pages, that concerns me. But what can we do in the here and now? People here today, what can we do? You have the answers. You have the answer in your hand. You've got your mobile phones. You can access the truth if you know where to look. So I would urge you, educate yourself. Go online and have a look. Find out what is propaganda. Find out the tricks of propaganda. Find out what propaganda looks like so you can recognize it and then counter it. Go to the original sources. If you see a story that makes you think it's a bit suspicious, go to the original source. Find the original source, get the clips, get the truth out there. Be legitimate and honourable in the way that you... Let's keep it civil, folks. If we want to have a positive future, let's work towards a positive future. And if you think that there is a way that we could do things better, let's have that conversation. I suspect what is happening with Westminster's agenda is the same with the NHS. They've been trying to get rid of the BBC for decades. What people value, there will be a riot about if it is lost. What people don't value can then be undermined and removed. And I suspect in the same way that Westminster Tories have been trying to get rid of the NHS for decades, and they've been trying to privatise the BBC for decades. I suspect that what they're trying to do is erode support, erode trust, and then they can say, well, it's not working, we'll just need to split it up and do something else, and everything will be privatised. That, I suspect, is a lot of the bottom line. So my final point here, because I'll not ramble on forever, because I could if you gave me the chance. My final point is, we need to be the change we want to see. We need to support that. We need to look at the media that we agree with, and we need to subscribe to that. So I pay my licence fee because I want to know what the BBC is saying. I want to be a part of that conversation. I can't counter what I don't know is being said. I have problems with that, but that's what I do. I also buy the National. When I finish with the National, I leave it on the bus, or I pop it down to the dentist surgery. I buy the iScot. Now I'm in a lucky position. I can do these things. But we need to fund the change we want to see, and we need to have viable alternatives, and perhaps then my former colleagues, whom I hold in great regard at the BBC, will perhaps be given the support they need also to match what is going on. And perhaps we can have a Scottish Broadcasting Corporation which reflects the reality of what is going on, and not just a UKIP voice piece that currently seems to be happening pretty much most weeks on Newsnight. Thank you for your time.
In 2014, in the campaign leading up to the 2014 referendum, the BBC betrayed me. They let me down. The BBC let itself down. It's not what I thought it was. It's not what it's meant to be. It's failed. And the failure's not because of the BBC as an institution. It is a great template for public service broadcasting, one we would do well to maintain. The BBC is not failing because of the licence fee. The licence fee, nobody has ever been able to suggest to me a better funding model for independent public service broadcasting. The BBC's failure is certainly not due to its personnel, its staff, its people. Mostly, they're professionals, decent people, just trying to do a good job. They only want to make good radio and good TV. The BBC's failure is a failure of management, and by extension, a failure of regulation. The BBC, as happens often in large, complex organisations, the BBC has come to serve itself and the British establishment which enables it. It's failed, the management has failed to prevent an ethos developing in which that ethos that has developed has been the cause of the problems that we saw in the referendum campaign leading up to 2014. That ethos is the cause of things like what we recently saw with Wings Over Scotland and Peter Curran's YouTube channels being taken down. That wasn't a failure of the BBC as an institution, it wasn't a failure of the BBC's people, it was a failure of management. Management should have prevented that happening, and the management didn't. BBC in Scotland is broken. To the extent that we have public service broadcasting in Scotland, it is failing the public it is supposed to serve. How do we fix it? How do we reconnect our public service broadcasting with the Scottish people? The failure of the BBC is a failure of management. That management is in London. The failure of the BBC is a failure of regulation. That regulator is in London. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I know where we must start. As with all else, we start by bringing it home. Broadcasting in Scotland must be governed in Scotland. At the moment, the BBC is broadcasting to Scotland on behalf of the British establishment. Broadcasting in Scotland must be broadcasting for Scotland. Thank you.
Now, when Graham approached me and says, David, we have to do a protest at the BBC, this was about 6 months ago. And I thought about it, and we deferred the date a few times because of some all under one banner marches and things like that. And during that period, I would climb into my truck every morning and switch on GMS. And the constant negativity was wrist-slitting material. And it was no wonder that the people of Scotland thought they had nothing to offer the world. Day in, day out, no matter what sort of press release there would be, what sort of report would come out, this institution would look for the negatives, and that would be the headline. They browbeated us. They browbeated the people of Scotland day in, day out, and they are still doing it. And that's my concern. What does that do to the psyche of the nation when every day when we get up we are told our institutions are crap, that our education system is crap, that our NHS is crap, that our police is crap, that our fire service is crap, that our railways are crap, and every other public institution that we have here in Scotland is crap. And that really, really worries me. That institution behind us, which is based in London, and probably almost all its output is inspected in London, and they're told whether they can release that to the Scottish public or not. But the institutional negativity coming from that building, beamed into your front room, into your radio in the car as you go to work each day, it is atrocious. If we were to believe even half of what these people say, then it's true. We are too wee, too poor and too stupid if we can't think above what these people are saying. The constant negativity is a big worry for me, and it should be a big worry for us all, every one of us. We have crime at a 40-year low. Police Scotland are crap according to these people. We have educational attainment at an all-time high. Last week, the stats dropped by 0.2%, and this lot went to town on the education system. Day in, day out, we hear it about our NHS. You know, how much under pressure they are, how crap they are. Well, I'll tell you, 6 months ago, I snapped my Achilles tendon. I had first-class service from the NHS, and every time these people opened their mouths, it was NHS crap. I'm surprised that our staff in the NHS didn't bombard that building. I'm surprised they didn't storm the building. If I was working in the NHS listening to what was coming out of that building each day, I would have quit. I'd be on the first flight to Australia looking for another job. These people are doing such damage to our society that it's not true. You know, it is absolutely frightening, the damage that they are doing to our society, and I wonder about the damage they are doing to the psychology of the country. Our future generations growing up hearing, you're rubbish, your education system's rubbish, your health system's rubbish, your police are rubbish, everything's rubbish. These people would have us believe that we are incapable of running our own affairs. And this took me to the 2014 referendum, where a certain Miss Joanne Lamont on television said that we are not genetically designed to make our own decisions. I watched that woman be bombarded, and do you know what? She never blinked an eyelid. She actually believed it, and that got me thinking, is this some sort of mind control? Is this brainwashing? Because that woman, she took pelters in the press She took pelters on social media. She took pelters from us all. Never batted an eyelid. She actually believed that we are now capable of making our own decisions. And that terrified me, because that made me think, how long has this brainwashing been going on that a senior politician in Scotland, in our parliament, does not believe that we, the people, are capable of running our own affairs? Remember, we invented the modern world, and now we have the leader of the Labour Party at the time telling us that we were not capable of running our own affairs. And that lot in there are responsible for that mindset. They really are. And it is frightening. We have a generation coming through at the moment who are being told that we are absolutely incapable of running our own affairs. We had 55% of the population believe that we are not capable of running our own affairs. And that has to do with that institution there. That London-based propaganda machine, because that's what it is in Scotland. That's exactly what it is in Scotland. Now, I do not for 1 minute believe that the people in that building are bad journalists. I do not believe that for 1 minute. Which means that the editorial control is not coming from that building, because they are not broadcasting on our behalf. They are broadcasting to us, and they are telling us that we are not good enough. And that is not what we want from our broadcasters. Well, the answer is quite simple. We need our own broadcaster. Do you know, as the wee Ginger Doug said, we are the only devolved country in the planet that doesn't have its own broadcaster. But that's no mistake, that's deliberate. The people who run that institution there do not want the Scottish people having a conversation with themselves. Because if we start to talk to ourselves and we start to talk to each other, we are going to realise that we are more than capable of running our own affairs. We are going to realise that we did invent the modern world. The propaganda that these people put out to us every day, coming into our homes and our cars, are coming through instruments that we invented. We invented the television. These people are exploiting our ingenuity to suppress us. And that scares me. And it scares me of what it's going to do to the psyche of the nation as we move forward. This constant negativity is really depressing. So I thank you all for coming here today, because it's important that we let these people know that we are very disappointed with their output, we are very disappointed in their attitude, and we are not happy at being told we are not good enough to run our own affairs. I don't really have much more to say than that. I'm not a public speaker, as I say, but as I climb in and out my truck each day and I put that radio on and I listen to the constant negativity coming out of that building, I know the damage it's going to do to our nation. So we have to get out and we have to protest. We don't just have to protest this institution, the next target should be the Scotland office. The marching up and down the streets is excellent for a public profile, but we need to attack the institutions that are attacking us. And that's that lot in there and the Scotland office. And we need to make it clear to these people that we are more than capable of running our own affairs. We are more than capable of having a discussion with ourselves, and we are more than capable of making our own decisions. As I say, once again, thank you very much for coming here today.
That's it for this week. Thanks to Ashley for joining us, and thank you to you for watching. For more information about Broadcasting Scotland and our programmes, you can visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot. While you're there, you can also subscribe for £5 a month, which will allow us to keep making our programmes. Look out for Scotland at 7 throughout the week on Broadcasting Scotland and the Full Scottish, which will be back again next Sunday at noon. Thank you and see you next time.